Okay, let's close out the solve part of our A3 report and make sure that we've implemented our optimal solution, which, we'll have some, by the time we finish step 3 of solve, we have some data saying that this worked. We don't want to just look at the measurement. We also want to think about the overall objective. Remember, the overall objective was don't be late to work. So how did this contribute to that? How are we doing in terms of not being late to work? There may be more that we have to do after we close out this A3 to address that, okay? So we don't want to be so narrowly focused on the metric. We want to think more broadly. Just like when we finish C, double check, make sure everything that we said we were going to do is done, and take some time to reflect, right? Each completion, C, solve, and sustain, we want to retrospect and make sure, specifically here in solve, that we know why we were successful. Sometimes we're successful for reasons different than what we expected. And so we don't want to just ignore that, right? And if we weren't successful, then we want to understand that as well, okay? So once we've done that, we can move on to sustain. And sustain, it's so straightforward. We're going to standardize our countermeasure, and we'll talk about some of the tools we use to do that. We're going to think about next steps. What do we want to do beyond this A3? We're going to look across. And when I say look across, it means look at other departments, look at other people, look at other similar activities, and see if there's application of our solution. And we're going to share our results. So simple. It is the smallest part of our A3. But it is equally important to the C component, right? All the process understanding. And again, it's very, like the project management I was talking about, it's very simple stuff, but really hard in practice. And we'll talk about some of the practices. What I want you to recognize is it's going to be the experience of you actually implementing those things where you truly learn. Again, that's why we have the mentor there, the coach, to help you in that application. And for those of you that are white belts and are going to go on to yellow belt, sustain is what yellow belt's all about. I learned a long time ago that I can design the best process, but if the management, the supervisors aren't set up to implement that rigorously, if we don't have the habits and frankly norms around good discipline, we're going to fail. And so that is so important to the success of your A3 that you shouldn't undervalue it or underestimate the effort that it's going to take to really get your solution to stick. All right, and that's what sustain is really about, getting that solution permanent. So how do we do that? Your organization likely has some method for documenting what you do. It's going to be training documents, or it's going to be controlled documents, forms, process maps. It also might be visuals that you put up around the office, around the manufacturing site. It might be how you communicate in town halls, newsletters, all team hands-on, all of those things. And you should use the methods that already exist within your organization. You don't want to invent them. If they completely don't exist, again, that's why we have yellow belt, is so that you can learn how to create some of those things. It's really important. This sustain is about the management practices required to get the solution to stick. Okay, there's lots of ways to do it, but it's the rigor and the persistence with which you do that will make you successful. So Joe updated his getting ready for the day standard work, his drive standard work. He's going to now look at what are the next steps. I cut out 10 minutes, but there's still 5 minutes gap, and maybe there's some other things I can do so I can get down to the 60-minute standard, or maybe even beat the standard. That would be awesome. I'm going to look across, or Joe's going to look across at maybe after his drive home and see if he can shave some time there, just using some of the same concepts. Maybe that same route will actually be just as good on the way home as it was on the way to work. He's going to talk to some of his peers. He's going to look across and say, who else might benefit from what I learned? And he's going to share those things. Okay. And so that'll be it, right? That'll be a closed out report that I can now share with leadership and help them understand what was learned, what I did to solve the problem, that I can keep as a reference in case something similar ever comes up, and that, frankly, I can use again to go solve more problems. So that is your completed A3 report and a completed report for Joe's specific problem. And so Sustain was or is all about getting processes to stick, process standardization, validating and putting in monitoring mechanisms, key process indicators, metrics, to make sure we maintain the gain, okay? So in conclusion, we've been through the entire A3 report building process. We see, solved, and standardized our issue. With the A3 itself, we know is just a large sheet of paper that helps us to show and communicate the depth with which we solve the problem, but we're also concise in terms of in terms of being able to communicate cleanly what was done. It's telling the story. It's showing the process of problem solving. Okay. We did this in an encouraging way, and so or in an engaging way with our peers, and so that's a critical component to this, and hopefully that came through in the training. And in Chalmers Street, we showed you how in CI Mastermind we use this S3 C-Solve Standardize to build out that A3 report. Okay, so you should feel really prepared to go do this. Certainly you're going to have a lot of questions. Use your coach. That's why they're there. We know that I can teach this thing in a couple hours, but your practice and actually doing it is going to take weeks and months. And frankly, don't just do one A3. When you're done with this A3, do another one. This is why companies invest in this, is because they want you to continually improve utilizing this method. And once you get confident in applying it, you can solve all kinds of problems. So good luck. I'm looking forward to see your completed project. And, I hope you enjoyed the training. Take care.